No, Evil did play smart, but he had a hint of getting away with dumb shit. The biggest factor for him, in my opinion, from playing other players was that when he pushed you, his aim didn't really seem to get fucked up. Where like, when somebody comes in and you're getting bounced around by rockets, or they're getting bounced around by rockets, you could tell that like their aim is kind of messed up. Or you're like just destroying them with plasma gun or anything like that. You have the positional advantage with LG, but he like pushes into the room and it's like it didn't matter. His like aggressive plus forward aiming was very, very good. It allowed him to overcome some really bad positional plays because he hit hard. Doesn't mean that it was always the right play, but he would get away with it. But it's not as though like Evil couldn't play slow or try to play smart. And he played more of like he tried to play the player more so than the map, which against me is personally is what got him in a bit of trouble, is because I would time a bit better and I would be focusing like almost the whole game on like what is he doing. Like so I'm trying to like read him as well as possible and make unpredictable routes and really figure out and get a feel of when he is leaving shit up to bait it for me to die. And it doesn't even necessarily mean that I go to the item, but that he's leaving the item up so that he can cut me off elsewhere. And like how to counter that by staying still or reading that he's doing that and then taking the predictable route and stealing items from him, etc. Whereas like with other players, it caught them off guard a lot because they wouldn't necessarily then know like if that was happening, what all their options were because they weren't timing as many items. Dramis isn't dumb, all right? He plays decently smart. He went with an approach to the game that nobody was doing because they have tried before and it does not work consistently. You can do one of two things. You can either try to adapt your play style as you learn and to try to play a more mixed pace of game, or you can try to play one play style so well and try to perfect it that nobody can deal with you. Okay? Now, the second option is the one that every once in a blue moon somebody will win a tournament or they'll be the dark horse, but then they won't consistently place at the top again. Okay? Because Dramis went with the approach of he played super, super aggressively and he barely ever took the foot off the gas. All he wanted to do is to try to aim bully the shit out of you and use movement to be aggressive over and over and over again. Now he has like toned it down a little bit over the years, but overall, Dramis is a very, very fast player. He's just trying to play the style to overwhelm you constantly, hoping that like his speed and aggression will make you miss, and then that's his entry point. And then he relies on his mechanics to win. Now he's had like some really good games against really, really good players, and he's pulled some upsets. He's even beat me once in a match. But he hasn't adapted his game enough to be a champion in that respect. Because Dramis has all the mechanics in the world to do it, but he's a little too predictable. I play a bit predictable, but I do it in a way where you don't have options. Sometimes he's playing a bit too predictable when there are still too many options on the table. It's those like, why would you push there? Why would you aggress there? Like, I'm fucking ready for it, type of thing. So it's like, why? Like, what was the point? Like, you didn't have the element of surprise. You didn't have any of that. You weren't in control. You were 100, that type of deal. Where it's like, yes, if he won the situation, it it could pay out, but the likelihood of it doing so was not going to work, type of deal. It doesn't mean that overall that he is a bad player. Sometimes he makes bad decisions that he could avoid. But yeah, he decided to go the route of, I want to perfect one playstyle and try to do it. That's like the best example of like recent memory that I can give you. And I kind of understand why he decided to do that because of his history. The only Quake that he ever played before was Quake 4, which is also why like he was really good at the crouch sliders. He would get banned out most of the time. Like he could only play one of them, right? It would either they would get banned out and then the other person would take it from him, or he just would only get to play one in a set. So he would be very dangerous on one map. But the reason why I think he decided to do the aggressive thing is because he played Halo competitively previously. And in Halo, unlike Quake, if you're caught out at one point, you just need to fucking commit. Because there's almost no dodging because of the auto aiming and bullet magnetism shit. So it's one of those where like you have to get really good at initiating and being confident in yourself. Whereas with Quake, no, it's about adjusting and manipulating your opponent into thinking they have an advantage when in reality they don't. Very rarely are you just going to go all in a duel, that is, and come out on top, like just straight up head to head. The reason that you're having trouble with timing
Vote now.
is because you're not forcing yourself, okay, to go through the hard times.
Prepare for draft.
And what that means is for you to actually focus and get yourself to be better at timing more items at once, the concentration that it takes while you're learning that takes away from the rest of your game. Other than like movement. Your movement around the map should be good. But for a little while, for a couple weeks, your player prediction will be worse because you're using more of your mind to focus on the item times. Your aim will be worse because you're focusing more on that because it's a new thing for you to learn. Whereas if you, and eventually you just give up. I know a lot of people do this. They give up on it. They're like, but I could just win these fights if I just focused on my aim more, so I'm just going to do that. So then they give up on that shit, where it's like, no, like just go through the process of doing that for a couple weeks, and then guess what happens? Timing is not as mentally fucking taxing to you. And then it becomes about you doing like everything else. You know? It makes the other aspects easier. It's the same as like trying to get better at communication while you're fighting in team games. Shit takes practice and work to get through to the point where it's like, okay, now it doesn't really bother me anymore. And I can do the rest of my shit really well too. Yeah, because when your timing is better, Caliber, like you really start to understand like where are the best spots that you and they should be. And it also makes it easier to kind of track them in your head. What are they likely going to go for? What could they bait for at this time? Oh, I just heard them on this side of the map. It means they fucked up and I can run over to this item and grab it, guaranteed, because they're not timing as well as me. It really, really helps. It's part of the game. Like, you control the resources to push advantages. The only way that you get around that is by having like almost aimbot-like aim. Yes, I'm always doing like positive expected value, negative expected value. That's why sometimes like when people kill me, I'm not upset that I'm dead. It's more so like the odds of that working out for them was like 10%. And they just went with it. Where it's one of those like, it's like it's a waste of my time, like that situation. Because in a match, that shit's not gonna happen. blah blah blah. That's been the mentality I've had to have.